we did 137 fix and flips in 1 year. And then I figured out the modern wealth building formula works for high rises and commercial and residential and wholesaling, because people all teach you could wholesale with no money, which you can, but if you want to scale it, you need some money, you know?
Ken Van Liew, his claim to fame is that he is the king of skyscrapers based in New Jersey, has done all sorts of crazy things from building skyscrapers to large, what do you call those, Ken? Horizontal skyscrapers. Man, you've got an amazing and colorful background that I'm excited to jump into today. There are 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show. Can you very quickly tell us, where did you start? Where are you now? And how did you get there? And I forgot to put in there, in 90 seconds or less.
90 seconds or less.
Yes,
Where'd
sir.
you start? Where are you at now? And where are you going?
How'd you get there?
How'd you get there? So I started, believe it or not, with $10 and had to figure out, after building $100,000 in debt, how I would get out of it. I was a civil engineer and I had to get into real estate. And my first project in real estate was a $17 million project with no experience and no money. And once we hit that out of the park, that led to a bunch of other projects totaling in excess of $1.3 billion, where we take them from schematic to handing over the key. And right now we're developing over 100 acres throughout the country. And we have the global real estate investment enterprise, where we bring people to their greatness, you know, and leave them with more power, freedom, self-expression, and peace of mind. And that's what we're doing.
That's unbelievable. I know before we kicked off the show, there were, and I gave you 90 seconds or less. Thanks for staying inside of that. But there are a lot of things between, you know, the 100 acres you're developing around the country and building skyscrapers. I mean, walk us through just, I mean, how did you go from $10, 100K in debt, and then land a $17 million project? I mean, how?
Yeah, it was, you know, I guess I would have to tie it to my success in football. You know, I was an all-state football player in high school, but I didn't know what I want. So I created the 6-year college plan. And thank God I met my wife taking calculus 2 for the 3rd time in the 3rd year. So she screwed my head on straight, but she taught me how to study. Still with her today, 38 years later. That year I was accepted to New Jersey Institute of Technology and started this engineering path. It was cool that I didn't have to study calculus and physics anymore, because roads and buildings and all that kind of stuff was cool to me. So, you know, I was able to, you know, graduate, you know, up there with a decent cum, but I was president of the ASC, all that kind of stuff. And I graduated and I won this site development award, and it planted this seed for development. But I didn't know much other than Dad telling me, go get a degree, which I wasn't good at, and go get a job. And, you know, if you're an engineer, you'll make a good living. And, you know, sure enough, I did that. It took 6 years, but by the time, you know, I got into the engineering, I then found out it took another 4 years of experience before you actually got the license. And I had started this career in construction where, you know, I was building, I got offered this job. I was working for a lawyer, doing construction claims at night, doing a master's degree at Rutgers. And some guy said, hey, you want to build a building in Poughkeepsie? Sure enough, I packed my bags, went to Poughkeepsie, built my first 32 unit project, and learned how to be a super and a project manager. And the next thing you know, the Left Rack organization was building this waterfront property in New Jersey. I called my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. I said, I'm going to go build high rises on New Jersey waterfront. She's like, hey, you're nuts. A couple months later, I was a super on 2 33-story high rises in New Jersey. And I was with Left Rack for about a year and a half, built those buildings. And this developer offered me this job to be a super. And I built a bunch of commercial buildings. And at the end of that stint, this guy said to me, you need to go to New York and work there 10 years, because once you build skyscrapers, you can go anywhere in the world and be successful, because that's like the all-star game. And once you go to the all-star game, you know, you're going to make it. So I did it. And I went to New York for 20 years and just learned as a super. My first job, I learned how to manage people in the field. That went up to managing almost, you know, 200-300 people, worked myself up the ladder as a PM, then a senior PM, then a project executive, and then went to work for a big developer. And then one day I had accumulated a lot of debt, you know, living this big life, big, you know, fancy suits. And like everything else, buying a house you can't afford, 18% interest when I got married. It was crazy. And I looked at myself, my wife and I couldn't have kids. And we're like, what are we going to do? Next thing you know, we were blessed with twins. Um, I was like, oh, wow, now I got to create, a legacy for them. And that led to my own business, and it just continued from there. But that was kind of the start, and as quick as I could say it.
Man, that's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, you're right. So you made it to the big leagues building skyscrapers. Why did you eventually get out of that?
Great question. My dear friend Dave Worsley went on to build the World Trade Center. My other friend Pete Marchetto went on to be the president of Tishman. Bless you. And running all major companies in New York City. Don DiNardo ran Bovis, over 40 projects. I just had this desire to work for myself and not be in that corporate world. I was always short attention span and focused on, how do I move up the ladder, and wasn't really good with, I guess you could say, a lot of routine structure. I like to be a little more visual. So I just, had it big when I was with Bovis. They were the #3 CM company in the world. I was an executive for them, but there was a guy, Trevor Davis, who worked for Olympia York, and was involved in Canary Wharf. And I had just had an opportunity to work with a guy who built Canary Wharf and built Metrotech, was in charge of Metrotech for Forest City Ratner, built Battery Park. These are two of the biggest projects in the world, Battery Park and Canary Wharf.
Right.
And when I heard about this guy coming to New York City who was going to build skyscrapers, I'm like, I'm going to go work for him. So, I jumped over and became a senior vice president for Trevor Davis. And then from there, I worked for Bruce Eichner, another huge developer, did billion-dollar projects. And there I was like, I could do this myself. I'm doing the work for him. Might as well give it a shot myself. And my first step out was with a little small GC that I brought and created a women's business-owned enterprise that built itself up to $40 million a year. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a contractor. And that was my first step, just kind of getting my oats to kind of go out on my own, because when you come from nothing and you don't have money and you're starting on a shoestring, you got to build some Calhouns sometimes, but that's all. Courage.
Break down what you do today, because it sounds like you've got your hands in a lot of different development projects. You're doing some really cool stuff, but then you also are teaching people as well,
Yeah.
kind of the financial freedom, the mechanics of financial freedom. Does that sound like a fair synopsis?
Yeah, it does. And it's a great question because, I take time blocking to heart, and I try to, you want to be most effective because there's only so many hours during the day. And I'm sure, with 3 kids and doing a daily podcast, our time is like our most valuable commodity. And what I do is, in my global real estate investment enterprise, it's me consulting to a group 3 times a month, right? Because, I can't give all my time to one-on-one coaching because I'm not a coach. I'm going to tell you what you need to do to get the result you want, right? Because that's what I did for years. I was a real estate advisor in New York City. People paid me 25 grand a month to keep their project screwed on straight. I'm not here to necessarily coach you. I have training I taught. You watch the programs. It's a lifetime program. You won't get away from me if you want to be successful in real estate. And that's a couple hours a week. My real vision now, because over the years, I've raised a lot of money, and now, I want to simplify the money raising aspect of it. I don't know how much time you spend raising money, but you could spend a month of Sundays and then some raising money, right? I'm moving on to some, I'm scaling my developments outside of New York City. New York City's a interesting cat because you could do a project, and right in that little neighborhood, you could raise the money. It's just all right there, but when you're doing something in, Lewisburg, North Carolina, people don't know the demographics there. They don't know that Raleigh's coming that way. They don't know that there's a highway widening, right? So it's a different animal, and I'm not here to pound the pavement, right? So I've actually, moving in a little direction, going more securitized this year, and, maybe less than high net individuals, high net worth individuals. I don't know exactly where that's going to go, but we're focused on getting a little more structure and really trying to scale on a national scale, where I've been a big metropolitan area type of guy, And so my daily basis has, I'm working on some fancy decks with someone who, who does my marketing. I do a little work with someone who kind of runs my global publishing company and the enterprise to make sure all my enterprise members feel like VIPs. And I'm involved in a lot of the entitlement work. So, for example, in Chester, we're in the heart of a planning board approval where we're dealing with stormwater and traffic and all kinds of testimonials, same type of stuff in North Carolina. And having a professional engineer's license, that's kind of my forte. So I have the ability to kind of really push through and create what I believe is a tremendous value, during the entitlement. When you buy land, lock it up, create the value, and it helps you raise the money. So we're me looking at the end vision, which I kind of see, and creating the marketing aspects so I can enable people to see three-dimensional. I'm then pushing it ahead forward. Like yesterday, I had a conversation with a guy who went out and flagged my wetlands. That's a very important thing for me because my wetlands takes up my development area. And if it's more than what I'm anticipating, that means money. So yesterday I had my fingers in a wetlands conversation. I had my weekly meeting with my team where I had a brief conversation on how's the traffic analysis going? Have we looked at spot elevations? Let's put the utilities on the plan. And then I kind of putz around. One of my hobbies is magic. So I'm always doing magic, entertaining for people and having fun. So that's a day in the life.
One of the things that you touched on that is near and dear to my heart and is an art in progress is time blocking. Talk to us about that, and what does time blocking mean to you?
Yeah, I'll tell you. I've been through, every system imaginable, and information retrieval is key. Morning and recently, I found evening routines are critical. And these little micro distinctions, relative to time blocking, because it's all relative to, what do you want to achieve in your business, in your relationships, and in your health, right? Because you need unlimited energy. And out of those three things, every day I write down, I don't call them three mission critical things, but there are three things that I really want to focus on, and, what I'm grateful for, and what three things I definitely want to get done to make it a great day. So my time blocking is all around my purpose, on my relationships, around my family, around my business, and every morning, of course, I have my morning routine when I get up, when I meditate, when I exercise, when I eat, when I start my day. And then the evening, basically gratitude, look at what's happening for tomorrow so that I can manifest. And I do some amazing manifestation during my sleep. And then during the day, I literally block time out, and I'm very big on measuring, right? We all know that I have these things that I want to get time. So times are blocked out on my calendar, but as things jump in or as it moves, my first thing is I grade is what was the actual versus planned. And then I do two other measurements on, how did my day go on a 1 to 10 personally, and how did my day go on a 1 to 10 business wise? And it's purely a measurement because people have a tendency to feel they're failing when in reality they're just failing measurements, right? So if we quality quantify on a daily basis and we look at, hey, today was a 7 in my personal life because, I forgot my iPod headphones at home or something, or, that would have made it an 8, or, 9 if I would have connected, for 20 more minutes with my son, or 10, or, if I would have, if it didn't rain when I was running, would have made it a 10, and little things like that. I did for years, and all of a sudden it just gets anchored in your body and it becomes just part of your daily thing. And it just makes you work a lot less harder and smarter in the long run, because once again, time's not going to grow. It's not going to stretch, and you're going to get more things going on in your life, and your kids are going to get busier. And so that's kind of what time blocking means for me. And, I have a chart that I created literally that's color coded with literally every single aspect. If you consider, I don't know if you've ever done any Tony Robbins stuff, kind of like the Wheel of Life, where, there's time on here for my spirituality, and there's time for my soulmate, and there's date night on Friday nights, and there's Sunday church, and there's time at the gym. And then each one of those times get calculated into a percentage. So I could actually see the percentage I'm spending on my spirituality, this percentage I'm spending with my loved ones, with my wife, how much I'm in the gym. So I'm always like looking at my wheel of life, because at times, a portion of your wheel gets flat.
Right.
Like all of a sudden you don't go to church for three weeks in a row or something, or whatever it is. You don't go to the gym for 3 weeks. You feel a void in your whatever daily.
That's absolutely fantastic. I've never met anyone, I don't think, that does it with a percentage analysis. Like that's a commitment. That's time blocking to a new level. Hey, that's
Yeah,
pretty.
I tell you, I've been accused of like not being able to shut it off. I mean, that's what I've had to force, because when I wrote the book, the Modern Wealth Building Formula, I was sleeping like 3 hours a night, and now I wear a sleep ring, and I force myself to try to sleep 6. Because it's easy to try to pay it. It's well, I'm not saying it's not easy to pay it forward, but when you have a passion that you want to pay it forward, you can, and you just don't sleep, and you got to realize sleep's important, because you got to help. If you don't have sleep, you're not helping them.
No, that's right. Yeah, there's unfortunately one of the things we've not yet figured out how to go without is sleep. And man, good sleep is the foundation, I have found. So that's absolutely fantastic. Tell us a little bit about your book, Ken, and then we'll jump into the final 4 questions.
Yeah, the Modern Wealth Building Formula was, an acronym, MWBF, that came about, just from doing all my Tony Robbins stuff. It was, I was always taking massive action. I was focused on wisdom, bold leadership, and basically, outside of the box thinking, um, forward thinking. And I was sitting there, and in the Modern Wealth Building Formula, I didn't really know what it meant, because looking back at my path, I didn't know real estate. I knew construction, and when I got into real estate, I was like, okay, I got to find, fund, and facilitate the process. So let me keep it 1, 2, 3, simple, and I didn't have to find real estate at first, so I went and called engineers and architects and found what I knew, because I knew that if I could do a $10 million project, I could pay myself 5% development fee, 3% CM fee, and 8% general conditions. That's a good payday,
Right.
even if I don't have ownership, And I kept thinking about 9 ways to bill fees, and what did I do on Bridgewater? How did I find that project? And I was a little unorthodox. I was all about presentation. How did I fund it? I syndicated it. I did it differently. I did presentations at country clubs, and and I just did it a little different. And it turned into like a formula for me. I started, finding deals through architects and engineers, which then led me to brokers, but it was a different path. And then, I learned how to fund things through meeting some rich guys at the country club. And, and then I built the first facility on my own, and, I had to figure out how to manage it. It was an assisted living, and I didn't know assisted living. So I brought in a hospital, and, I bought the $9 million project, and then I had the ability to build it because it came in over budget at 9.4. And, that's how it kind of all started. I kind of, then said I should, try to figure out what this is. And when I got that acronym, I started writing and what were the important things, and came up with a table of contents. And then the last up was really proving it on residential, so that people can look at the Modern Wealth Building Formula and go, wow, I could do real estate with no money and no experience. And it could be any type of real estate. You just have to think that, hey, it's real estate. It has to have an investment criteria. You got to find it. You got to fund it. You got to facilitate it. That's it. Keep it simple.
I love it. I love it. And where can we find a copy of that?
I believe on my website, I'm giving them away for free. You pay for the postage at kenvanliew.com, or go to 11millionairesecrets.com. I think it'll eventually offer it to you. You'll actually get an ebook probably for free, because, like I said, I'm not in the book and guru or course business to make money in that. I'd rather bring a bunch of people to their greatness, and they bring me so many projects that I can't, it's so much that I have to figure out how to fund it for them.
Right.
And that's a great problem to solve, because then everybody's having a good time, and I get to, feel good, because what else is there to do other than feel good?
That's fantastic. Ken, let's jump here into the final 4 questions. What is one digital tool or resource you find you can't live without?
I would have to, obviously say this at first. It's unfortunately I learned how to unglue it from my hand. So
Yeah. That's absolutely right. Yeah, the modern day smartphone is pretty impeccable. That's fantastic. If you could help our listeners avoid just one mistake in real estate, what would it be, and how would you avoid it?
yeah, I think getting involved in wrong type partnerships. Not that I'm flagging anybody, but there are certain type of professions that just aren't good in real estate. You could see it in my 60 pitfalls to real estate investing. But yeah, just be careful and vet the people that you get in bed with, because you don't want any nightmares.
That's absolutely fantastic. And lastly, Ken, I know you gave a link for the book there, but if our listeners want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, go to kenvanliew.com or 11millionairesecrets.com, and then it'll eventually lead them to a link where, believe it or not, you'll be able to talk to me direct on the phone. I do a few phone calls. I don't have a sales floor, and I'd love to hear what you're up to and where you're going and how I can reduce friction. So you can just slide on in, baby. That's it.
Sounds great. Ken, thank you for your time today. I do appreciate it.
Yes, sir, Sam. Thank you for your time.
Cool. All right, man. That's a wrap. I'm sorry to do this. I know I'm 5 minutes over time here. I've got another call here starting just shortly, but
Yeah.
look for this 3 weeks ish. You'll get notified when it goes live. Show artwork, links, all the stuff to pump out to your audience. This was awesome. I've never met anybody on the podcast yet that's done skyscrapers, so this
Cool.
loads of fun,
Cool.
man.
So question I know you just said that. Is it possible to get the raw footage for my guys to clip up for some stuff, or?
Yes, I will share a Dropbox link. Let me make sure I put
Perfect.
that on here. I'll share a
That'd be awesome.
Dropbox link. All they need to do is make a copy of the folder. Don't
Yeah.
edit inside the folder.
Yeah, we'll download it. Sometimes
Yeah.
they take little segments. They do the shorts on YouTube and stuff, and
Yep.
it saves me a little time. Hey, thank you so much, Sam. Let's connect on when we got a little more time to catch up. All right.
Thank you, Ken. Have a great day.
You too, boss.